Hi guys. Hi Gaspar. All good?
Hello, Renan. Yes, all good. Hello, Renan. Thank you for the invitation to this podcast or conversation. Yes, so a
Yes,
pleasure.
thank you for accepting. That is my pleasure. So, the
Yes.
first things first. I usually ask people because it's a and my thing is I need to know how you got into SAP world.
How I got in it? Okay. My first job in 2002. I got my first job in an SAP consulting. Yes, now this consulting passed away. Yes, it doesn't exist anymore. And I work in the finance area, yes, for 5 years. Then I became as SAP consultant in 2007, and since that moment until today, after 15 years, I've been working on yes, I've been working as a SAP consultant in finance always, or especially.
And but how you got into this topic of document compliance? I know most people they are not really into the law part and meeting legal requirements and delivering files to governments. So how you got to work in this specific area?
Uh, Probably one of my one of my first assignments in my first job of as a SAP consultant was related with the localization of Argentina. Yes, uh, just it was a company of ah, it was a company about with of food. Yes, they were implemented in I think in 2009, something like that. I can't recall exactly the year, 2008 and 2009. They were implementing SAP and together with another SAP consultant from finance, we've been working on the localization, and my task were basically or was sorry to deliver all the tax reports at national level, province level. Yes, and I had all the knowledge from the business side, from the taxi side, but in that moment, yes, my expertise, sorry, was not the best because I was learning. And since that moment, I put focus always on the legal side, on the reporting, on the withholding tax. Yes, it was a period where I dedicated time for the banking. But again, even in the bank, in the payment method, in the EDIs, yes, the withholding tax was present. And then in this company where I'm working in this moment after or since sorry 9 years, I dedicated always in legal sides, right? Reportings, configuration in the system, but not only in the South America, it's also in Europe or other regions.
Yeah, but I think that coming from South America, it's really maybe easier to become a tax expert, legal reporting expert, because we have many taxes and very complicated ones. I think that
Yes,
helps also to understand the rest of the world. Because usually, if you look at like Argentina or Brazil, and then you look at Europe, okay, Europe looks much nicer and looks much easier because you understand much more complicated taxes here. Or
I
what do you
believe.
think?
Yeah, no, but yes, you are totally right. You are totally right. I believe the I don't know the two or three reasons why South America and the rest of the world were more simple or us were more complicated is I believe Argentina, Mexico, then Brazil. I can't recall exactly the dates, the moments. We were a pioneer, yes, on the electronic invoice or the electronic regulations, yes, where the companies who operate in these countries must provide frequently information to the tax authority. Probably, and unfortunately, one of the main reasons is because the tax evasion. Yes, at least Argentina is one of the has a high degree of tax evasion. So this is a formula from the tax authority to try to close the way of this behavior from some taxpayers. But then I believe after 4 or 5 years, this become a global context, a new paradigm, right? It's not only about South America countries like Chile, Brazil, as you say, Mexico, Peru. Now is all South America, most of the countries in Europe, yes, because now there is a it's not so complex like South America, but yes, most of the European countries has this image registration. Yes, it's more simple. It's not. Yes, it's not complex. Some countries from Asia, yes, Taiwan, I believe Japan. I can't recall exactly, but I think Japan is. I don't know if they have or they will have very soon. Vietnam, Russia, South Korea, yes. So this is definitely this is a global context. This come to keep, yes, as part of the daily operations, and the companies basically must be compliant. Otherwise, you cannot leave the track. You cannot release the track. You cannot send the emails to the customer. Cash flows will be affected because if you cannot send the invoice, the customer will not receive. Basically, they will pay you later, right? Or with delays. But I think that is the less impact. The worst impact is operation stop, receive a letter from the tax authorities, or fees, right? Penalties. I
Yes.
mean, economic penalties from them. And yes, if you make like a timeline, in the past we had to send information yearly in terms of frequency, yearly time frequently, then monthly, then I know every 2 weeks. Now it's online, real time information to the tax authorities. Okay, it's what most of the countries are doing. Everyone is, I believe, is stressed. I mean, companies, consultants, developers, providers, and tax advisors.
Yes, that is totally true. I remember when I started SAP, I was doing not a fiscal electronica for Brazil, but one of the first ones that started was Argentina. And the first one for Argentina was terrible. It was a kind of batch e-invoice J1AK, and you had the annexure 4 and annexure 3, I think. And that was really terrible. You
Yeah.
downloaded that thing, you had to upload in the government server. That one was terrible. I remember that. And it was
But
really, really weird.
let me ask you one question. You are the person who may question, but let me ask you one question. You are Brazilian. What do you believe is the requirement what is the most complex requirement? Is Brazilian framework taxes that you have to report to the tax authorities, or is Argentinian?
But I would say that Brazil has more fields. That is the complexity of Brazil. Too many fields that you have to change processes to fill them. In
Mm.
Argentina, it's quite complicated because the government invented. You need one model for national invoices. You need a different one For export invoices, depending on the size of the business, you just send headers, or otherwise you have to send details.
It's not the same
You have,
exactly. Yes,
yeah,
it's
you
not the
have these
same.
credit notes from finance, and you have the FCE, which also doesn't make sense because nobody in the end is really doing the FCE operation.
Okay, yes, but I have the same opinion, but in the opposite side, right? Because I understand in Brazil, first you have to make some calculations, send to the tax authority. You need to receive some code, and that code you will you add in the invoice, and then you can send the invoice. But okay, it's probably because you know the localization, you know the process. Maybe for you is yeah, it's normal. For me, the same in Argentina.
Yeah,
But
and
please,
no, I was going to say that also the government of Argentina, I think they also were really, really bad in, at least in the beginning. I remember it was always inconvenience. Communication with the government was
oh
terrible,
yeah,
and they changed rules from one day to the other. Brazil, they at least they give you a few weeks, but from Argentina, I remember one day Argentina stopped accepting invoices in US dollar from one day to the other.
oh, but this is some yeah, but those are right. Yes, those are things. Yes, situations, exceptional situations that we are facing. Yes, in Argentina. Yes, the stability of the economics and also the politics is not having the best moments in these years. So yes, we are taking those kind of yeah, we are changing, yes, the way in a repent rapidly, yes, yes, system has to be adapted very very quickly. Please ask the guys who maintain the ATMs in the banks, right? I mean, I think they had the worst part. Uh, but yes,
Uh,
it's not
but,
so.
yeah, but that is also a challenge when you are implementing like these solutions in global companies, in big ERPs like SAP, because very often like German companies, they are not used to this level of change. They expect things to be announced 6 months, 1 year in advance, and they have time to put it in the test system, test all the scenarios. And here in South America, no, things change from 1 month to the other, sometimes less than 1 month. And this is
Yes,
something where the document compliance comes in a bit handy because it is
you
more
know,
flexible. Oh,
yes, I think you're right because when I started with this, I think my first implementation was complemento de pago in Spanish or e-payment in English in Mexico. Yes. I remember it was the legal, it was September of 2017. Yes. And I think the deadline was 1st of January. When we arrive on the 31st of December, I think the tax authority provide three extra months. If my mind don't let me make a mistake, I'm not sure, but in that I remember that when they released the requirement, it was published in July or something like that. I mean, they gave us, or they gave all the developers and companies and 6 months at least to analyze, to elaborate or to develop the solution, and customers or companies, sorry, could implement, let's say, with some kind of time. But now I'm seeing that the time frame of between from the point that the tax authority release what is needed, just it doesn't matter if it's an upgrade or a new solution for a new country, the time is less, and the resources are not enough, right? When I started, SAP has almost nothing, has known any, oh sorry, has any country to support. but now they have to support at least 15 countries, if I don't wrong. Where I'm working today, the day of today, we go live on the the solution of the electronic invoice in Portugal, and with Portugal, we have 13 countries in production with the solution of SAP Document Compliance, plus other solutions that are not in the in SAP. I mean, they have other solutions using third parties or old solutions that at some point the plan is to move to the same platform. What I want to say is that now we have more process that we need to support, and also adding new countries, which is stressing the team. This is exactly the same which is happening in the developers like SAP and other other providers, sorry, and that is making the things so difficult because we are seeing that the gap we have between SAP, for instance, release the solution until we can implement, test, and put in production is very few. And just to try to share with the audience, in my opinion, in general, yes, because each country has their own story. We need 3 months. At 3 months, working dedicated to that project with all the people allocated there, and now it's a challenge to have the team allocated to that project. Yes, work only do it that specific project. Yes, so it's not so simple. And also the business is pushing to us. We are pushing the providers. But basically this is the situation, and we try to mitigate by adding more resources, or if it's needed, hiring external providers, yes, external consultants. But yes, it's the best we can do is try to make a plan, yes, try to anticipate, but we don't have the space to anticipate or work with time, because between the maintenance and the implementations, we are at full capacity. I don't know if you agree that about the times.
Yes, I totally see that. And yeah, unfortunately, that is a reality. We have to deal with the constraint of resources, and having more and more countries, it's getting more complicated also to manage like developments and put everything together in case we have legal changes. But now we are having lots of legal changes in Mexico. They are changing the CFDI version, both for e-invoicing and for the e-payment. And things are still a bit messy because the new e-payment there, they have much more information about taxes that didn't
Yes,
exist in the
yes.
past. And this is creating really some stress for companies to do the implementation. That is something that everybody has to really deal with. And in Mexico, this e-payment, I think it's a very good example of how governments can make the life of companies difficult. Because everybody used to be happy about getting money, but now you get the money and you need to have a legal requirement on top of that. So it makes getting money a bit sad.
As I when I started with with your question, how I get this in this topic of the electronic documents, I shared that the first implementation I did was the complemento de pago in Mexico. In my case, yes, we couldn't use the SAP full solution. I have to develop everything, right? Okay, it was one more interface, yes, with just to define all the fields, make all the logic and so on. But the most difficult in that project, and trying to connect with what you're saying, is because it's the way that the companies has to make business from since that requirement. because you make the invoice in dollars or in pesos, Mexican pesos, sorry, and then the customer pay you in dollars or Mexican pesos, a total payment, because there are three scenarios: total payment, partial payment, or they can pay you the balance of that invoice. So you have to prepare the system for all those combinations, yes, and also work a lot with the business users to say, okay, from now on, these are the options you can use in the system. You can receive the money in dollars, in pesos, total payment, partial payment, balance. Oh yes, but this is a real example. One of the users came to me in the testing, and then told me, well, but we grant discounts in the payments. How you do that? Yes, just I consider a lower exchange rate when they pay me in dollars. Okay, you can do it, but how you will inform how you, I mean, how you get balanced all the open items in the system? Yes, and you will report this to the tax authority. No, I don't know. Okay, you cannot do it anymore. That was my answer, and explain why. Yes, of course, and explain you, or you can do it. You can use a different exchange rate, but then you will have to explain this taking in mind the validations of the tax authority. It's not like I don't want to. I mean, I don't let you do it. You can do it, but the tax authority now limited your options, and that was the biggest challenge that I have for months, because they make mistakes and they pretend me to solve it. I dedicate a couple training sessions trying to align them, and then I arrive at the point that I make a trip from Argentina to Mexico to make a refresh and ask me, please don't do this because I cannot do anymore. I cannot do something different in the system. Yes, all the creative as I could as I could is implementing the system, but now it's your turn to understand that this is something that the tax authority request, and all the companies must follow basically. If you want to grant a discount, please talk with the commercial guys and grant the discounts in the invoice, not in the payment, and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but you have to fight with very deepest cultural behaviors, yes. And at the end, yes, I mean, I am consultant, sorry, and I advise them, but at the end, they do what they want. It's their responsibility, of course, because they must to be compliant, not me. I do everything to prepare the system for the companies to be compliant with the tax authorities. That's all.
Yes, and I think that that is especially complicated in this area because when we are talking about invoice, usually invoices have better scrutiny, the customers can reject. So they were used to have certain level of requirements. But accounts receivable is internal process. They were used to
Yes.
get money, just apply it, clear the invoices. If they have to do something manually, they do it, and it's internal process. Now you have to report this internal process to the authorities.
Yeah, but for me, it should not be a problem in Mexico, because I mean in any country, because if you make an invoice of 100, you should receive the payment of 100. But the reality, at least in my experience, at least in the company where I could see examples, I see that they issue a lot of invoice 100, 150, 200, and so on, and then the customer send you money. Yes, and the collection collector or collection analyst has to compensate or clear the open items without any rule, because the customer send money without any I mean, they didn't send exactly money to pay specific invoices, and they were posting like they could, or they or how did someone else teach them. But then I have to make a training about, okay, we need to be clear, we need to be clean on the way to use the system in order to use the process correctly, and let the system find information to send to the tax authority. And I explain them. Basically, you need to assign the payment into the invoice, because I need to find the payment and the invoice linked. If you do something different, the system will not relate the information, and I will not be able to report, or you will not be able to report to the SIT, in this case, the Tax Authority of Mexico. For me, that was the most challenge of that project. Work with the user, not the technical part. The technical part was very difficult. I remember that I spent 1 week with the scenarios, right, of the total payment and the partial payment and the balance. Yes, because it was not okay when I worked with the total payment. The partial payment was not working. When I fixed the partial payment, the total payment was broken. And the frustration, it was arrived at the highest level. It was at some point I thought that, okay, I will not get it, but fortunately, with other colleagues, we do it. Now, fortunately, the upgrade will be using the full solution of SAP, so at least the technical part will be a little bit easier, at least from my expectations.
Let's see.
I understand. Yes, I understand that, but I'm not doing in this case. It's a colleague of mine who is doing.
No, I remember once a collection manager and a customer, they told me, yes, the problem of receivables is that you cannot control customers. Here in Mexico, if they have money in their Mexican bank account, they pay with pesos. If they have dollars extra, they pay with dollars.
Yes.
You cannot control them. And sometimes they don't pay you at all. Even if we threat to close the company, they say, no, we don't have the money. We pay it later, and they pay less. That's the problem of receivables. I always remember this manager because he was like really.
Probably that's the reason. Yeah, probably that's the reason why the tax authority requests that. But it's a challenge, because they transfer or they delegate the responsibility to the companies.
Yes, and yeah, that is just one example with this e-payment. I hope not many countries try to copy this model from Mexico, because that would be really painful.
It depends if all the countries. I mean, I don't have any problem with that requirement. The problem is if the behavior, in this case Mexico, is exactly the same in the other countries, which I believe is not. But okay, I don't know. Maybe it's a matter to check. 5 years ago, when this complemento de pago came to our life, how was the picture in that moment, and how is the picture now? Probably is a little bit better, a little bit or well organized, because you have this requirement. If you don't accomplish this, the tax authority will send you a penalty, or a nice letter. Yes, I don't know. Honestly, I didn't do the analysis, but I will not surprise if it's a little bit organized.
Let's hope for it. And that's also another thing. For example, now imagine you are a document compliance expert. You are responsible for several countries. You have this legal change in Mexico, but at the same time you get a new legal change in Italy. You are implementing Portugal, and then you have Vietnam, and you start to get these requirements together.
No, wait, okay, yes, that in fact it's happening. Yes, we have Today we have the go live of Portugal. Meantime, we have the upgrade of the CFDI 4.0 in Mexico. 4.6 CFDI 4.0 for the ones who is listening us is about to upgrade the information of the electronic invoice plus the complemento de pago, the collection process. And yes, there are some requests from the support, some issues, and if you want to complicate more the story, in Grundfos where I'm working, we have the S4HANA upgrade version from 1809 to 2020. So we have to make the test and ensure that all the solutions, yes, of all the countries it will be work. I mean, it will be working as it now. We cannot leave to God, or yes, or to the lucky say, that the solution will keep running as well. In fact, we already found issues during the test, which are fixed, but again, it's extra dedication that we need to do for this task. But I can share something about what we are saying. We are having this picture, simultaneous requirements in different countries. Yes, also the maintenance in the already protected countries. Because for that, we have a team. We have a dedicated team in the world. There are people working in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where I'm located. People in Europe and people in Asia, in Shanghai, China, and the Philippines. We have a dedicated team. Yes, we have a product owner who is doing the analysis of all the requirements, the team take decisions. What is the best approach in each requirement, country, and or process? In my case, since last September, I'm beside that I'm doing why I'm a SAP consultant. I have the role of application owner of document compliance. So I'm doing a project, for instance, I know upgrade of Colombia, but at the same time, I take a look how the solution will impact. I know, for instance, how the new electronic invoice solution for Portugal will impact in the platform. In this moment, I put in focus and dedicate a big portion of my time in the S4HANA upgrade, just to ensure that all the countries will keep running in the new version. And if there are issues, which we already found it, fix it as soon as possible. And this is part of my roles. Now also doing other things like the group task. There is a requirement related with the archiving. Yes, some documents are archived and the documents are not available. If you want to see the XML or the PDF, it's not possible. So I'm having some dialogue with SAP. I would like to be a little bit faster, but okay, this is at least I have the proper person to start the conversation. So what I want to say, we have open items, yes, to dedicate, and this is the way how we attend all these requirements. Because there is no way, it's not possible that one person, at least in a company where I'm working that's operating 80 countries, 80, yes, it's not possible that one person can do it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It is a lot of work.
Yes. I don't know, if you ask me personally, I believe that we are in the top of the curve of the requirements, simultaneous requirements that will come. I know. It's for me, it's clear that almost all the countries are going to the electronic model. Yes. Now, I this today I was reading that some forum or some summit in Miami that we discussed a little bit before this before I start the conversation. Yes, about the electronic framework in the world, some success histories, the electronic invoice framework that US apparently will adopt, but I don't know if it's already a decision or is under analysis. But I don't have any doubt that the US will adopt some solution or some framework, yes, for the electronic invoice. Apparently, PayPal, that the European network, which is having more than European countries like Australia, New Zealand, I think Japan as well, will be apparently in US. But independent of that, it will be a big impact because most of the companies operate in the US.
Yes, that is true. Indeed, yeah, what I really looking forward to see is some kind of international format. The PayPal is a good example of something that is cross-country, and I would like to see if more countries like in the Americas region would follow this kind of international approach. Imagine that in the future we have the Mercosur invoice with the same
Oh,
format we are.
but no, honestly, I think it's I don't have an opinion yet about that. Honestly, I haven't stopped to think about that. I believe in Mercosur. Probably we need to align a couple of things before to arrive to that point. Uh, but I think will will people means compared with what we have in this moment in Argentina, in Brazil, in Peru, and I don't know Chile. I don't know the detail. Probably will be more simple. Will means a simplification, and I don't know if the authorities would like that. I don't know if it's applicable. I don't know. What do you think? If you have an opinion.
No, I also don't know if our authorities would try to accept some kind of international format. We have different politicians doing different things, and in the end, it's up to them. But I think it would be at least some interesting points to have at, let's say, one common ground, at least
No,
for
no.
exports between the
Yes,
region. They can have the original invoice, let's say, for the country, and something else just for the international transaction.
but probably the discussion, probably the doing the exercise will be is needed because Argentina has electronic invoice since 15 years, more or less. It's one of the first countries in the world adopting this model. Honestly, I don't know Brazil, but for sure it has 10 years. And I believe,
Brazil is from 2000. The first model was from 2005, live in
okay,
2006. Yeah.
similar, okay, so
Yeah.
similar moment than Argentina. So we can say that we were pioneer, yes, on adopting this model. But now I believe it kept it turned obsolete. Probably it's updated the system, and we are requiring a lot of information there. Um, I don't know, it's my opinion, but probably from the tax authority perspective, it's okay. And probably they can ask more if you check the solution in Peru, the level of the level of the required information is very difficult because it's so deep. It's so deep. Sorry, and the validations are very detailed and it's complicated the operations of the companies. And it's not a small country with all the respect. Yes, When I see the monitor every day in my PC, how many invoices I have from Italy, from Colombia, from Argentina, from I know from Egypt. Peru is very small, but the complexity of the validations on or how to prepare the invoice in order to get approved by the tax authority requires a big effort.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing, I don't know if you agree, but I think that some countries they took the complexity of the paper invoice to the electronic format. So they kept more or less the same constraints they have with paper now with electronic. And for me, that is what happens in Argentina with the branch logic, because that in the past was connected to how you print the invoices in each printing place, and now you have the branch logic replicated to the electronic documents in the same model.
Okay, at least if we pay attention on the SAP, how the SAP solution was named at the beginning, it was e-documents, SAP e-documents, right?
Yeah,
Now SAP changed the name, I think 1 or 2 years ago, no more than that, from e-documents or e-document to document compliance. At the beginning, I didn't get why they changed the name, but then I understood because uh, SAP will deliver what everything what is compliance, what everything what is electronically compliant, and the PDF I think is the uh, just to use nice words. No, it's the worst part for everyone because a PDF requires at least 100 from the technical perspective requires 100 hours for development, and I think I'm being very optimistic. Sorry, but for the business, it's still needed. It's supposed that okay, now we are moving to electronic document, and XML is the law, and is the proof that the that the all the information is in the of the invoice is there, and if it's accepted by the tax authority, is okay. But the company is still requiring the PDF, the readable version. Let me put it in words: the readable version of the invoice. Nobody cares almost the XML or the whatever is the format. Nobody wants the file. They want the layout, the readable version. And okay, business push us. When I go to SAP, in my case, because in our company, our company, should I introduce Grundfos a little bit, or because
yeah,
I
you can. Yes.
okay? Grundfos is a Danish company who operates in a is a worldwide and leader in water pump solutions. Yes, or water solutions. Yes, not only water pumps. Yes. Uh, it operates in 80 countries. Yes, Americas, Europe, Asia. In terms of IS or the information solution teams, we have centers in Buenos Aires, Europe, in Denmark and Hungary, and in Asia, in China and Philippines. Philippines is the biggest center, sorry, in terms of colleagues, in terms of IS analysts and consultants. Um, but for at least for Grundfos and the customers of Grundfos, the PDF is still valid. It's still needed to make business. So this is a problem. This is something that we are, in my case at least, and I could read some other persons in the forums, in the SAP Jam, in what is the program that they call the customer influence. That for instance in PayPal, there is no PDF, there is no readable version, and after 2 years, SAP will finally and very soon release an HTML format for a readable version, which I applaud, because even in Europe, which is supposed that they are more modern, and even the electronic invoice will be not be needed because now it's electronic, they pretend the PDF. So I don't know if I answered your question or your comment, or if I missed something, please just
No, I
recap
think
it. But
so.
it's still valid. It's the proof, not because it's what I'm seeing. I know
Yes, and things companies still want to do. They want to. I want to put this text in the PDF, and then I tell the guys in the invoicing area. Yeah, but if it's not in the XML, theoretically it's not valid. It has to be in the XML. No, but this customer, they want to have this special information just in the PDF. And I try to
yeah.
convince, yeah, but that's not what this thing is meant for. It's just a representation of a technical file. If we keep changing it and putting more details here, it becomes a different thing.
Yes, it's true. But at the same time, yes, also, I mean, SAP told us, okay, this is compliance, this is compliance, so we are going to deliver. We try to adapt that concept. Of course, we cannot do this at 100%. But basically, also because we don't have an army of persons, analysts, and consultants in our team, so we have to. We have to prioritize at the same time. So if some user from the business say, okay, I want a flower, let me use this example, right? I want a red flower in the PDF because this customer wanted. I'll say, okay, how many customers you have? 500. How many customers want the flower? 2. Okay, no, sorry. Or will we do it but in a low priority? But is have to manage, yes, the requirements. Not all the non-compliance requirements cannot be do it, because at the end we have to sell, um, right?
Yeah. But I think at one of the biggest advantages I saw, because I started in the world where there was no document compliance, no document framework. When I
Yes,
was working in the past, it was one transaction for Brazil, another one for Mexico, different technology,
yes,
IDOC, another one for
yes.
Argentina, and things were really complicated. And now, at least with the framework, it's easier to do development, I think so, and easier
Uh,
to integrate these requirements into the same thing.
for largest companies like Grundfos, I mean, yes, the concept. Yes, I buy this concept because in my opinion, it's better to have all in one place, because you will know the infrastructure, you will know the same language. Sorry. Also, for who operates this system. If you have a person who operates in Argentina, Chile, Brazil, and I don't know, just to keep in the region, right? And Uruguay. If they know how to use the solution, it's a matter to add a new country, of course, the particularities, the localization, but the process will be the same, right? So if you have to implement a specific solution per country, they will have to learn how to operate those systems for each country, each solution. In my opinion, is the best approach. And of course, SAP is happy because it's doing business. There are other platforms. Uh, I don't know I think Sobos is one of the best. Of Sobos, I think is one of the developers. Edicom, uh, probably other providers that I don't know. But in my opinion, that is the best, because it's one single language to operate from the users and from the technicians who support the business. Um, then at least in I don't know, in SAP, at least me, I try to take care I'm very in a good way, right? But I'm very jealous of the solution to ensure that it will be the most standard as possible, or much standard as possible, because basically SAP will support us if we make if we let if we let the team to make developments to provide the solutions. When we have events like S4HANA upgrades, or even more difficult, the migration from ECC to S4HANA, is the moment where you will notice the difference to keep the standard or to have all developed or custom developed, because basically you will have to fix it instead of SAP or the provider that you have in your company.
Yeah, that is true. And yeah, to be honest, accommodating all these requirements with extra developments makes everything more complicated also for central IT teams, because no IT expert will understand a
No,
hundred different frameworks and 2,000 different developments in hundreds of bodies.
uh, I mean, probably if I'm in the foot, yes, of external consultant, okay, I could be dedicated and I will charge the company more hours. Fantastic, but the challenge will be the same, right? I mean, you will not know, or even assuming that is well documented. Yes, you will not know what is happening, and so you will have to investigate. And but that's it. At least the person will have a can charge the companies, yes, and sell their services, which is okay. But for the perspective of the companies, in my opinion, the best is try to keep the solution as much standard as possible. So, and this implicate sometimes say no. Of course, business will push, will not be happy, but from the architecture perspective, will be the best. We already faced from the migration from ECC to S4HANA last April, not this year, sorry, 2021. In that moment, I think we had 7 countries in production. The task was a lot, yes. Most of the countries were not working in the S4HANA test system, so we have to make a lot of pre-tasks, yes, to do it in the S4HANA, then go down to the country level and fix different problems until everything was okay and business could make the testings. But it was basically the message is not copy and paste. That's the message. But in most of the cases, SAP help us, yes, I mean support us, sorry, because the solution were standard. In some countries, okay, were some developments, but the migration went well.
Yeah, that is another thing, but I also like it from the framework. For example, my company, we did developments, we have solutions for countries that SAP still doesn't have a local version. So with the framework, it's easy to get at least the overall idea, implement the process steps, and do the mapping by your own. So we develop some scenarios that are not even in SAP standard yet. And that is
Yeah.
something I like about the framework, because in the past you needed to develop it from the scratch. It was much, much more complicated.
Yeah, but when we face those kind of situations, that like you say, and I believe is not is quite normal, because SAP or the developers provide the solution, but then in a specific company they have their own business and their own specific scenarios. And in my case, this is something that I ask my colleagues to also do it. When we have a problem, try to solve it by ourselves with the customizing and the guide. But if we cannot, just report to SAP. And even if they ask us to develop a custom code, we try to don't do it. Of course, there is a balance between to deliver on time and get the perfect solution from the standard perspective. That sometimes not always is possible. And for one or two scenarios, okay, let's make a development. But when there are some very scenarios, very simple, and okay, this is the core of the solution of the company. Sorry, this is the core of the business of the company. Please, I need the support from you. And for those moments, the product managers of SAP has an important role. We contact them, we explain them, we dialogue with them, and in most of the cases, we got solutions.
Oh, that's a good statement because most probably the SAP guys from the document team, they were my former colleagues from SAP. They will see the podcast at some point in time. So I can
I
already tell them that there
I
was
will I
a
will
phrase.
I I think not. I don't know all the guys from San Leopoldo, but if they will, if they are looking in this moment, or they are attending this webinar, or they will see later, just I send a big hug to them, because, and I also thank them, because we raise a lot of tickets, sometimes medium, most of them high or very high. They have to support us. Sometimes we push them, yes, and always I make a joke that I say this 50% real and 50% show, that they have a picture of me sending some shooting, yes, something, because yeah, sometimes the pressure is a lot, and they suffer us, and okay, but at the end, I think also we work with SAP, and to provide a lot of feedback to improve the solution in different aspects. And
Yeah.
with one or two persons, I have a close contact. Sometimes they call me when there is an issue, and we analyze together. And sometimes they are right. Sometimes we are right, and but independent of that, we always get the support from them. But yes, I believe in this moment they are under a little bit pressure, because the different customers they have to support, and the new solutions that are onboarding. So, but yes, it's so we try to understand each other.
Yeah. No, I remember from my SAP days when I was working with support, every time there was a legal change, we always knew, okay, the first customer that will open a ticket for this will be this one. And then we knew, okay, when these guys they report a problem, okay, this usually is a bug or is something not supported. We always have to check. We call the customer. Some of the customers we already knew the names, so we just saw the ticket from the company in the queue, and we saw, this is from this customer. I know this guy. I'll call him to talk about this one.
Yes,
That is very
yes.
common. And
At
with
least,
legal,
yeah. Sometimes when I have the opportunity to talk with one of the processors, most of the cases from Brazil, sometimes I ask. I mean, if the kind of the ticket that we rise to the support are basic for them, or are very new. At least if this situation didn't change, most of the cases at least are reported with details, which is important, because it doesn't matter to dedicate 5 minutes to make an analysis, put in a Word document, provide the step by step, and they can understand what is the situation. But and sometimes there are, or not always, but most of the cases, we report new things that almost nobody reported. So it's good in some way, that because we discover something, but we are the first one that implicates to wait a little bit more for the solution, yes, because they had to make an analysis, yes, make the correction, and but okay, this is how it is.
Yeah.
Beaten has good and bad things at the same time.
Great. We are talking for almost 1 hour. We're going to reach 1 hour now, so it's
I
really,
have
really
a
nice.
yes, yes. Honestly, I didn't expect, but for me, it was fantastic. I know we can. For me, we can extend a couple minutes more, or you decide. Is
Oh,
your chance.
it's absolutely fine. We don't. I usually don't set a time limit. I did once one for I think it was 2 and something hours. It
Okay.
was maybe a bit too long. Now I recall it, maybe it was a bit too long because usually when I am in Europe, it starts really late, around 10 or 11 in German time, and
In
now
Japan.
I'm in Brazil, so it's much easier.
Okay, but it's more or less the same time that we started here. Yes, right.
Yes, but I
But
was in Europe,
but I,
so
but I believe we touch most of the main core points of this topic. Yes, the electronic documents, because I believe it's not only. I mean, it was electronic invoice, but now it's electronic invoice plus uh, payroll plus delivery. Okay, we have complemented the power in Mexico, and I agree with you that hopefully this is not extended to the rest of the countries. Uh, but yes, basically we are going to the electronic document, online document, and this become. I don't have doubt about that. That this is become another critical operation of a company to operate. In the past, probably it was the plant, the production, yes, making the invoice, but now this electronic invoice is one extra critical step of the process. I don't know how do you.
yes. You know, I totally agree. I usually, when I give a presentation or I'm talking to about this kind of requirements to some companies, I like to mention to them, in the past we said e-invoice, now it's everything because everything becomes electronic. In countries like Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, you have, for example, in Argentina, I have this e-remito, this COT, that is
Yeah,
basically
okay. The code is, I think, is the e-delivery.
yeah, that's the delivery. And
Yeah,
in Brazil, you have service invoice, you have the freight invoice, you have the normal invoice, and yeah, it's becoming everything. So you cannot get rid of this, or cannot escape the hands of the authorities
yeah,
with some electronic fiscalization.
but the most interest, yeah, but this is the, at least for me, this is the most interesting, that it was exclusive requirement for complex countries, if we can put that way, that word in the, like Argentina, Brazil, South America countries, if you want to say. But now this is global. This is a global context. For
Yeah,
me,
because
was
I
related with tax evasion. Now it's not tax evasion only. It's just a common practice to doing business.
yes,
With
it's part of the digitalization agenda of some governments. They saw that it brings really results. You can do things faster, you can fiscalize the operations of the companies easier, you can do data mining and get lots of information from these electronic invoices. So governments are starting to see, yeah, we can benefit from this. It's not just
yeah,
another requirement.
the, but the challenge to the tax authorities is okay. I believe it's okay. They of course they dictate their rules and the regulations, but the challenge is don't request so much information to make the companies lose the focus, right? Don't I mean, because okay, you have to make the invoice, but the focus is make business. But okay, some tax authorities in specific countries force companies to provide such level of information that is difficult. And knowing the localization, I mean, of what is the requirement about, it's not so simple. I don't know in your experiences, but one of the easy or the common issues that we have in the organizations is that the business sometimes doesn't know what the tax authority requires, and we have to act as tax advisor, which we are not.
That happens very often. I
And I
usually
say, why?
have discussions about
But
that.
it's just I mean, if I can read the documentation, you can read it as well. It's in Spanish, in English, it's a human being word. So, but it's not doing, I mean, working in this topic is not only, oh, this is a technical thing, okay, you can do it. No, no, no. Yes, it's a technical, but you need to know the process. You need to know the requirements, the procedures. Yes, I know. For instance, Colombia. In Colombia, you have to request every 6 months the legal numbers. If you don't do that, you cannot keep doing electronic invoice. It's a small example of one country.
Yeah.
So, and that is something that we cannot do it. Business has to do it because it's a legal request, right? It's something that you go to the portal of the tax authority with the user and password of the legal entity, and you follow the steps. And coordinate all these kind of things, believe me, it's not so simple. Okay, fortunately, more or less the people's the person, the members of the technical side and the business side are the same. The rotation is not so much in my company, but for sure, if you lose key person, it will be difficult because those persons will not know nothing about electronic invoice. These are challenges, yes, that you have to understand in the daily operations.
Yeah, that is
But
true.
luckily, because of these reasons, maybe we have work, right? We have a show. I know. Just to take the positive aspect of this story now.
Yeah, we always have to look for the positive side. I always think about that because that is complicated. I started my career work. First thing I did in my career was basically the Nota Fiscal Eletrônica, the electronic invoice from Brazil. And since then, I am always involved in projects with that. It's something that you cannot escape anymore. Oh, this guy knows that. We will put him in this project because he knows that. And then you keep doing always the same projects related to
No,
this.
no, no. But yeah, but at least in our company we have a product team. We are trying to adopt. Um, we are taking this topic very seriously. We are trying to use the agile methodology. Yes, we are having structured meetings every week. We have two meetings on Tuesday and Thursday, 50 minutes, just to see the status of the different topics. Then we have two meetings of 1 hour and a half every 3 weeks, which is not a lot, but it's globally. So people from South America, Europe, and Asia, and Asia and South America is difficult because there are 13 hours of different. Yes, it's not so simple. There is no possible that anyone will be happy. We are in the same room. Everyone is listening the different projects, and we listen and we share and we help each other. And now we are planning to do a transfer knowledge to delegate all the maintenance to the support. But first of all, we need to make the transfer knowledge and explain them. Otherwise, can you imagine delegate all the electronic invoice from the different countries we have in production for one team that doesn't know anything about this, and expect that they will understand the localizations and the resolutions of each country? It's a lot of information in one moment. But if we don't do this, we cannot keep adding countries and at the same time supporting the productive ones.
But I think that's kind of a challenge in all areas right now. I've been looking also to increase the team and to have more consultants to work in my area, and that is complicated. It's simply not easy to find the key resources to put in new
No,
projects.
no, because it's not impossible, but it requires more than the technical part. It's not the technical skill is needed, yes, but it's not enough. And if you send that person alone, probably will suffer a little bit. And if that person survive, okay, then will be okay. But if survive,
Yeah, it is complicated, and it's not going to get easier. So we have to get better at that.
yes.
That is a clear message. The requirements are not going to get smaller; they
I
are
know
only getting
it's
bigger.
nothing. Yeah, it's not impossible task, but it's complex. It's complex. It's complex because it's not something that you do in one country and you copy and paste in the rest of the country because it's not a simple. It's not a common process of a account payable or account receivable that you define in the company and okay, this is the Bible and I will implement in the different countries. This is something that you have to yeah, in each country there is an own story, the own validations or procedures, and that's why we cannot copy and paste.
Yeah. And since you are already doing that in many countries and you work for a company that has this worldwide, is there any kind of hint you can give to consultants that are starting in the area or looking something into the
uh,
area, what they can do?
okay, yes, I tried. Yes, uh, of course I operate or I am SAP consultant, but SAP is not the only developer or system platform. But in my case is first get all the legal legal resolutions, law, and documentation, which means a technical document where it says, okay, the tax authority defined this format file. This is the detail of the file that we have to transmit. In each field are the validations and the information type we need to send. This is what we need to understand in order to check and solve the different problems. Once we got this, okay, if we go to the okay about the solution, and if we are in a medium and large company, definitely my suggestion is to choose one platform like document compliance or other, yes, but at the end simplify the operations. One solution where you can add the different countries and processes per country, just to talk about in one language, one single language for business users and consultants, analysts, because at some point you will have one or two countries, but when you have a 10 or 15 countries, then you will see, oh, yes, it was better to have one single solution and not different providers, different interfaces, and different persons with specific skills. At least this is my suggestion. If I want to go in more in deepest level, every time I start in a new country in SAP, I immediately contact, or at least I get the contact, who is the local product manager, because the local product manager in SAP is the person who knows the localization. That is the person who knows that electronic invoice in one country will be mandatory in the following 6 months. That person will know the details, how the solution has to be developed and delivered and has to be implemented. And then, yes, implement. And then, yes, I will mention something specifically for SAP, but yes, my suggestion is try to keep as much standard the solution. And if that requires make some extra localizations in the system, let's do it. But probably I'm taking the most difficult way instead of the shortcut. But it will save you time. It's an investment for the future. I don't know. And then yes, make a team, because this is something that came to keep. Yes, it will be. It is it kept to be the daily operations in the different companies. So it's not something that it is temporary. Especially for largest companies, you will need a team. You can hire external providers. If you have the budget, you will be okay. The problem is that if you run out of budget to keep hiring these providers, that will be the problem. And support the providers for extra hands. The problem is when they finish their job, you have to be sure, you have to ensure that the knowledge will keep in the team. Otherwise, for maintenance purpose, it will be a challenge. These are the main hints, the main advice for the different stakeholders, right? Consultants, managers, leaders. I don't know. I put a lot of time and passion on this, and that's why I giving this advice. Of course, I don't know. I honestly, I would like to know how other companies of the size of my company, Grundfos, are doing this. I'm interested. Probably I could took some ideas to bring to our company, but I believe we will have a good team, even though the stress and the pressure that we felt in different moments of the year.
Yeah, but I like to thank you for the hints. I think they are also something I totally agree, and I have seen other companies also doing more or less the same. Of how we want one platform. In the end, what some customers told me, the platform is really not the most important. The most important thing is we get support from the vendor and we have the same platform everywhere, because
Yeah.
having hundreds of different solutions is much complicated for IT, for business, for everything. So it's really in line with something I hear from other companies and other customers.
Yeah, of course we can analyze other perspective. All my advice were thinking on to optimize the process, right? Of course you can do it everything manually using portals from the different vendors, but that is another point to analyze and a little bit have dedicate some minutes. But my comments were from the perspective to optimize and be the most efficient as possible. Renan, now yes, I have to. I need to go, but just to if we can, I don't know.
Yes, no, I would like to thank you for the time and for speaking to me today, and yeah, recording and even giving some hints on the implementation. So thank you. I would also ask people to follow you in LinkedIn, so they
Okay.
want to know you a bit more. And if you want to make like a final remark, still have 1 minute.
Uh, Final reflection. All the we are in the last step of the process, on the end-to-end process. Yes, because basically you start from the sales order, and probably behind that there are more steps. But if something was wrong at the beginning or in the middle of the process without any consequence, it can affect at the end of our step, which is basically transmit the invoice or the document to the tax authorities, and sometimes sometimes the consistency, yes, is a key. I mean, when I say consistency, is the readable version, the XML document or the XML file, sorry, the posting in the system. It has to be consistency. It doesn't matter if the invoice is approved. It could be approved, but the XML could be wrong without knowing, because we don't check. We cannot check all the files. But the problem is that if we receive an auditory from the tax authority and we discover that all the amounts were wrongly reported without any validation, that will be the worst moment. So we have to be consistency on checking that the XML has the net value, the VAT, and the discount, and the surcharges, sorry, and the total amount. Then also be sure that what the readable version is saying is exactly the same of the XML and the posting in the system. That's what I mean to be consistent. Sorry, that is the worst. Is the most difficult task, because it's very easy to get escape some detail. But we need to put focus on that, not only to see the green status on the monitoring, independent the solution we have. Okay.
Okay, thank you, and have a good night.
Renan, yes, thank you. Can you let me share my email and if you want?
Sure.
Yes, I
Yes,
will.
sure.
Okay, thank you so much, and thank you again for the conversation. I didn't expect that it would be longest. I could stay, but I have to attend another compromise. Yes, I have to run now, but feel free to have a second conversation whenever when you want. Okay.
Okay, so thank you. I also put your contact details here,
So
and
much.
have a good night. We
You
probably
too,
talk
Renan.
soon.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.